No, he had to go back home. No, we wanted to keep him on, but his agent wanted too much money. Is the whole thing. 2, 3, 4, bad it, dun, 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 do, 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 ba da ba 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 ba. It's yeah. You're not supposed to rub your eyes. That's not a good example. I'm saying. Hi, everybody. My name is Jimmy, and I went to the comic book store. Picks of the week. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo. So this was a pretty good week. Like a sizable amount of books, but not too many. I'm sorry. I'm still rubbing my face. Oh, my handsomeness is coming off right into my eyes. A good amount of stuff, but not like too much, and some, new things that I have things to talk about that I haven't talked about yet on this very show. What am I up to, like 38 or something? It's too many is what it is. Okay, first up, from the Image Comics group, I got Stillwater #1. I have no idea what's going on in this one. Chip Zdarsky's writing it, and I've becoming more and more of a big fan of his. The first thing I remember seeing him do was he was the artist for Matt Fraction's Sex Criminals, which was a critical and fan darling, and which I did not care for, as it turns out. I was a big Matt Fraction fan, and then I felt like around Sex Criminals he was starting to lose it, and now I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but that's where I knew Zdarsky from. And I knew the art, even though I didn't much care for the book itself, the art in Sex Criminals was very good. He was also writing Howard the Duck around that time, but for some reason I didn't read that Howard the Duck series. That was when I worked in the shop, and so that was like there were one or two, maybe three Marvel titles I didn't get every month. I got almost all of them. For some reason or whatever, it was Howard that time. And then I don't remember. Oh, I think it might have been he started writing Daredevil last year or the year before, and that was when I was really like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy's good. And then he was on, I don't know if I've mentioned Jason Latour's web series, because I can't remember the name of it right now. Jason Latour has a web series where he interviews different comic book creators, and it's really, really good. It's a lot like, there was a very similar series for stand-up in the early part of the last decade, where it was called Modern Comedian, and now I can't remember that guy's name. Scott something. And I watched Chip Zdarsky's episode of Jason Latour's thing, and I was like, oh, this guy's very likable and very relatable. That's kind of a cool thing about comic books now for me, is that most of your mainstream writers and artists are all about my age, maybe a little bit younger even. But they all came up with the same kind, and if you're like a lifelong comic book collector, there's all kinds of little internal jargon and I don't know. If you've never read Josh Cotter's Skyscrapers of the Midwest, you see what I'm talking about. He does a lot of stuff, like he'll do fake ads. This is like a fake cover, but it's very much modeled after the Transformers series from the 80s, which guys our age are going to remember. Why am I going on this whole long thing? I don't know. Just trying to say I like Chip Zdarsky's work, and I trust this is going to be good. It looks like a horror thing. I did read, there have been house ads for it, and I've read those, but I don't like to know too much. You probably know that by now. Next up, I'm very stoked for this. Headlopper number 13. This will be volume 4, of Headlopper. So this is a brand new series. Headlopper is this big Conan-looking fella here. Oh, I just realized this is kind of a Frank Frazetta tribute thing, with the guys being thrown off the thing. It's a little, you have to squint a little bit, but it's there. There's a very famous Frank Frazetta cover, Weird Science Fantasy number 19, I want to say. And it's an astronaut fighting a bunch of cavemen on a cliff face. And see, that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. This is the sort of jargon like those. Headlopper is done by Andrew McLean. Colors by Jordi Belair, which is, very good stuff. And so the Headlopper, he is a barbarian, an adventurer, and he has the head of a witch in a bag, and she can still talk and perform magic and stuff, and they get into these crazy adventures. And he's the one who killed her and now he's just hollering her head around. I don't remember if it's a curse or something to that effect. That sounds right. But it's super good. It's so much fun, and it's very untypical of this kind of sword and sandal type thing. Like I've mentioned, I'm sure that like, fantasy doesn't really do it for me. High fantasy is pretty much all right out. I like Conan, but I can only do that in small doses, that kind of pulp adventure. Same thing with like Doc Savage. I like Doc Savage, but I've never really read any Doc Savage. So I like Conan. I like some of those old like Hercules movies. Joey, you like movies about gladiators, that sort of thing. And this is that, but with a whole new take on it, which is really cool because it's more cartoony and stuff. So, but also it's kind of reminiscent of like early Cerebus, or even maybe more like mid-period Cerebus, where Gerhard would draw these very elaborate backgrounds, and then you'd have the very cartoony Cerebus, the Aardvark fighting guys, or going on an extended monologue. It depends on what part of Cerebus you're reading. Boy, oh boy, I'm all over the place. Well, I mean, geez, it's only 6 minutes. It's turning into the guy from Fargo. Jeez. Yeah, that's a good one. And then finally, finally this week, I got Heavy #1 from Vault Comics. I don't know anything about this sumbitch. Sorry for swearing. Max Bemis writes it, and I do know his name from something. He's in a band that I don't care for, but who isn't? I don't care for most bands, as it happens. But he's also written, I've read some of the stuff that he's written, and I've enjoyed it in the past. This was in my bag, even though I hadn't asked for it, but Warren down at the shop, he knows my tastes well enough by now. And he said, I held this up to him, like, huh? And he said, it's like The Punisher, but with like heaven and hell. I said, nah. Sold. So I bought it right there. It looks like it'll be pretty badass. Vault Comics even sounds familiar, like I've bought something from this publisher before, but come back next week, I guess. Picks of the and then of course picks of last week. Or in this case, pick of last week. I'll tell you, I mean, even without, if the kid hadn't been here, like this, the kid's not here this week, and I'm still running all over the place. I'm kind of behind on my funny books right now, but I did get to read Bill and Ted Are Doomed #1, and this was a lot of fun. This takes place between Bogus Journey and Face the Music. Yeah. So that's fun. I don't really care for anything else past the first movie, I've come to realize, though. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a very stupid movie that I find very fun and enjoyable, largely because I was 11 years old when it came out. But that's not the only reason. I think it withstands the test of time beyond that. But if you were to say it was a completely unwatchable stupid idiot movie, I would also agree with that. And then Bogus Journey, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is fine. Like, I rewatched it again recently. I hadn't seen it since I saw it in the theater, I don't think. And I like when they go to hell and stuff. I mean, I'm always going to like something like that. And then Face the Music I did like, but I also, gosh, I don't know how to say this without coming off like a real white woman, but I go to the drive-in every week out in Montclair. And every week I have to, once I get there, I have to move because some asshole has his headlights on. I'm sorry for swearing. People just have their headlights on at the drive-in. And I used to be the one, because no one else will say anything. So I'm always the one who has to get out of my car and go, hey, could you please turn your lights off? And they always give me one of these. All right. Like, I'm the asshole. And so it just drives me crazy. So now I just move. But at this Bill and Ted showing that I took the boy to, it was so crowded. And I moved like 4 times and I couldn't escape an idiot's headlights. On top of that, we got there kind of late. So we got to the box office right when the movie was starting, but there was a huge line. So we missed the first 10 minutes. So I don't know if I like Bill and Ted Face the Music. I missed a big chunk of it, and then I was pissed off for the rest of it. So suffice it to say, what I think I'm getting at is that's one of the nice things about this particular franchise, is that nothing after the first movie is going to ruin it. It's Ghostbusters is similar. Like, if you don't like any of the Ghostbusters of the first movie, that nobody cares. It doesn't affect your enjoyment of the original film. That's how I feel about it anyway. And I think that really makes sense with Bill and Ted, because it's not like you ruined Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That was like Lolita, and then you came in and you tried to make a sequel to it? It's not like it's The Godfather Part 2. But I also like The Godfather Part 3, so what do I know? Yeah, that's right. I will you know what? In fact, I should get into a fist fight over The Godfather Part 3 before I die. What kind of life will I have lived? I'm busy this week. Because we're almost done. Okay. That's it for... Oh, there it is. That's it for this week, everybody. Take it easy. I got nothing. Ba two ba ba da dee ba do ba ba dee beep 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 beep.